Hello and welcome to our Sony Alpha webinar. Today we're going to be looking at the Alpha 7 Mark V. And to give you a bit of an idea of what's going to happen, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to this camera so you can understand exactly what's got into it. But what we're going to be spending the majority of our time doing is speaking to three fantastic guests who've had the opportunity to test the camera out, and that's in a variety of fields. So we're going to be joined by Paul Browning, a wildlife photographer, Mihaela Noroc, a portrait photographer, and also Stijn Dijkstra, who is a hybrid shooter. So you're going to see a variety of different imagery and also hear about their personal experiences with the Alpha 7 Mark V. Now, many of you might already know everything there is to know about this camera, but for those of you who don't, I just want to give you a bit of an introduction to exactly what it can do. This camera has a full-frame 33 megapixel partially stacked CMOS sensor. That's brand new in this camera. This model is of course coming in above the Alpha 7 Mark IV. And although that camera is 33 megapixel and this camera is 33 megapixel, it is a completely new sensor and it has a lot of capability on the back of that. The partially stacked structure enables super quick readout, and that means that we can take 30 frames per second with full autofocus and auto exposure. It can check the focus 60 times per second, which is pretty amazing. On top of that, you get a blackout free view in your viewfinder. So as you're looking at your subject and even taking the photo, there's no blackout or kind of after view while you're even taking the image, which gives a great shooting experience on there. Added on to that, you also have some features from our higher end models related to continuous shooting, like we have pre-capture built in. So you can do up to seconds worth of pre-capturing where the camera is continuously taking images while you're auto-focusing the camera, and that can go all the way up to a second beforehand. You can, like our other cameras, set in the menu exactly how long you want it to do a pre-capture for, and there's no limitation in terms of resolution or JPEG or RAW. Completely, like I say, only the size of the buffer taking those in there. So great capability along with that speed, and things like the continuous speed boost as well, you can also assign onto buttons on here. We also integrate into this camera our Bion's XR2 processor. This is a brand new processor for this camera, and it does have the AI technology that we've also built into other cameras, but integrated into this specific processor. So compared to the model that it's coming in above, the Alpha 7 IV, it has even better subject recognition, able to have more accurate human recognition. So whether somebody's potentially wearing a helmet with their back to you or in very difficult situations, it will really be able to pick out the eye in a variety of difficult and tricky situations. Added on to that, it has lots of animal recognitions within there, as well as things like planes, trains, and insects as well. So being able to identify a subject and lock onto it, along with that quick shooting, can be really a big advantage in lots of different situations. That processor is also helping, along with the image sensor, produce really good color reproduction. So the image quality coming out of the camera, first of all, we can get up to 16 stops of dynamic range for still images, and the auto white balance and color reproduction is improved on this particular model itself. In terms of movie specification, you can shoot 4K 60p on the full frame, and you can also do 4K 120 with a Super 35 crop on there. Many of you might be familiar with lots of the features for movie that we have on our other cameras, and of course we put lots of that into this camera itself. So things like being able to import LUTs, as well as all the picture profiles and shooting in S-Log, but also things like the dynamic active mode, so an even better image stabilization built into there, or the auto framing function you might have seen on some of our other cameras as well. Physically as well, you can see it's a lot similar to some of our other cameras. It does take either two SD cards in there. There's an SD card slot on the bottom and at the top, but the top one of course is a dual slot with CF Express Type A built into there. Added on to that, you also have our 4-axis LCD screen. So again, you might have seen this when we first introduced it onto the Alpha 7R Mark V, but if you want it to aim back at you, of course you can do, but likewise you can also have it in line with the optical axis, so it's really flexible, and of course it can even go back and protect itself on there as well, which is extremely useful. This particular model also has full-size HDMI out, and also it features two USB-C ports, so that means that you could use the top one for data transfer that can output data up to 10 gigabits per second, while the second one potentially could be used for additional power going into there. Speaking of power, that new processor is even more efficient, so it gives you even better battery life than we've seen on the other models. And speaking of batteries, it's also compatible with our existing VG-C4 EM vertical grip. So I've told you lots of information there about the camera, and again, I'm sure there's many resources out there that you can find longer explanations. But rather than me tell you all these tiny points about the camera, what I'd rather like to do is to introduce some lovely guests who've had the chance and the opportunity to test it out. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome into our webinar here our lovely guests. So we have Paul Browning, we have Mihaela Noroc, and we have Stijn Dijkstra. Hello, guys.
Hello. How you doing?
So lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We, like I say, are going to hear about your experiences with the camera, and we're also going to see some of the images and footage you've shot. But as a first point, I would like our audience to understand kind of who you are, where you come from, and what you generally shoot. So we're going to start off with Paul. Paul, tell everybody at home a little bit about yourself, kind of maybe where you're based, if you like, and then also kind of what stuff do you generally shoot? How did you get into photography and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm Paul Browning. I'm a wildlife photographer from Surrey in England. I've been shooting Sony my whole life, but I actually started off doing sports, specifically alpine sports. So I used to go to the Alps, photograph snowboarders. I used to be the GB snow sports photographer. And it was in the Alps during the summer photographing mountain bikers that I started to fall into nature with the butterflies and the marmots on the hills, waiting for mountain bikers to come down. And wildlife, it's kind of been a journey where I've ended up at, and it just feels like this is what I should be doing. And it's my passion, my life now. Yeah. So it's been quite funny transition from sports, which I found kind of predictable in a way, to wildlife, which I enjoy the field craft, the trying to find, animals, and spending my life exploring on my own. So yeah, it's like destiny, I think, when I saw that marmot.
Wow, I mean, that's quite interesting because for a lot of people at home, I guess, in some ways, people think, oh, a career in photography is a career in photography, but actually, those are completely separate kind of genres and quite a lot of opposites.
It's still kind of action though, and
Exactly.
looking for an exciting moment. So I think my wildlife photography is that I can see the relation. So I like to get big moments or action and freezing a exciting moment with framing. And sports is all about that, especially snowboarding, where you've got to use the sun and the bright lights. And so I think I've definitely brought that skill to wildlife, but I just found sports a little bit predictable, kind of. I still sometimes do the local rugby team for them if they ask, but again, there's no field craft to it. I'm just hoping they do something cool. So yeah, it's been a funny switch, but I think it's supposed to happen in a way. I've never been happier doing wildlife, and I love it.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much, Paul. Mihaela, tell us a bit about yourself and kind of like maybe where you're based, but then also what you do and how you got into photography.
So I'm based in Romania. I'm a Romanian photographer, and in the past 12 years, a bit more, I guess, I've been doing this project called the Atlas of Beauty. I'm photographing women from all over the world. My project gradually changed because when I started traveling, I didn't know that I'm going to make a lifetime project like it developed. So when I first started photographing women on the streets of the world, it was just randomly asking them for a picture without asking the name. I didn't ask the story. I didn't ask anything about their lives. And kind of, I think now looking back, the project kind of taught me how to do it properly because at the beginning I didn't have enough knowledge to do it right. But in the end, now I'm really satisfied with the outcome because I managed to publish a few books with my pictures and with the stories of the women that I met. And I'm always trying in my books to capture a lot of diversity in terms of places, stories, And I don't know, just to give you like a sense of a small encyclopedia, if you want to, or like a roller coaster of stories, just because people have to see themselves in the women that I photograph, and that's why it's very important for me to see the essence, to capture the essence. So I think I'm going to work on all my life on this project. For sure, I'm going to be the woman photographing women all her life. I have one of the books here if you want to have a small glimpse of it. And when I told you that I'm showing, I try to have a lot of diversity. I'm speaking also about portraying them close to each other, different cultures, just to see how diverse we are, but have a lot of similarities, although we are very diverse. And my project is called the Atlas of Beauty because it has also a lot of meaning regarding my own development as a woman. Growing up, I had some issues with bulimia and anorexia and also all sorts of stuff. So I'm trying to change this idea about how beauty should be like just one standard. We all know about it. So yes, that's me.
That sounds amazing. It's also quite interesting because I speak to a lot of different photographers and people wanting to do projects, but when someone says, I've been doing a project for 12 years and it's going to continue the rest of my life, it's an amazing dedication. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really amazing. Stijn, tell us a bit about yourself. So again, same kind of thing, kind of maybe where you're based, what you shoot, how you got into photography and filmmaking, and your kind of journey there as well.
So my name is Stijn Dijkstra. I'm a photographer, filmmaker from the Netherlands, and you can call that a hybrid shooter, as you can see under my name. I have a huge passion for landscapes and nature in general. And this started about 10, 12 years ago when I was a little bit smaller. Every day I went to the forest nearby my house, and I first started shooting on my phone. And like every single day I went to that forest by sunrise to capture like these beautiful sun rays coming to the trees. And from that, I built like a community of people that followed me on Instagram. And then like people were like, hey, why don't you do this like professionally? So then I bought my first Sony camera. And then like I started shooting so much that like people hired me to do like posters for their houses and everything. And I started like doing that for my work. And then after let me think, 5 years of doing that, I started traveling because I was like, well, I want to see more of the world. And right now I'm a full-time travel content creator. So I do a lot of work for tourism boards, for hotels, for anything that comes across when you travel. So let me give an example. So a tourism board flies me over to their country and they want me to capture anything that we do on that trip. So we wake up for sunrise, we shoot the sand dunes. Then we go on a bus or like a car and they want me to share that adventure as well. Then we start shooting wildlife. So I do a lot of different things in the niche. And then photography, videography. So I do anything, like everything I do, I just capture everything in both options. So yeah, that's what I do full time right now. So it's great that you caught me at home because most of the times I'm just like hiking up mountains and capturing sunrise or sunset. So yeah, it's amazing what photography.
It's a lot nicer than where I might be, like in a bush or in a
Yeah.
river or something.
always out and about capturing something. That's amazing.
Cool, man. Wicked.
I was going to say those sound like long days. It sounds fun, but then when it's kind of like sunrise to sunset and capturing everything, I'm sure it's a lot harder. I'm sure people at home might be thinking, oh, what a lovely life. But I imagine, yeah, it's pretty tiring at the same time.
We're lucky to do what we do, right?
Yeah.
Very much so. But so thank you very much, Olvi, for giving our audience an introduction to yourself so they understand a bit more about you in case they didn't know you already. As I mentioned earlier, you have already been testing out our lovely Alpha 7 Mark V camera. So first of all, I'd like to ask you individually, I'll start off with Paul, as kind of what your first impressions were of the camera when you heard about it and maybe when you received it and first started testing it. What did you think? So give us a start off there, Paul.
First of all, I'm very honoured to try it. It was, I was so excited. I've had the most fun the last 2 weeks the whole challenge of, asking someone to find wildlife within 2 weeks is quite a crazy challenge. So I had to focus on what wildlife photographers would enjoy from the camera. So I focused on, the autofocus, the frames per second, the pre-capture, and obviously how well it worked in low light. And then I picked kind of 3 locations, 3 subjects to work on to try and get for the project. So this first image is of a great spotted woodpecker. So this is in the Windsor Woodlands where we filmed. So on the Alpha Universe website, you can see the little movie we kind of made of me using the camera, and this was in those woodlands. And there's lots of other little woodland birds, and that was a big test for me, whether the camera could hold on to birds as they moved in and out of bushes. And this is probably the most perfect example of pre-capture. So I always have it set to 1 second, so it starts shooting 1 second before my brain presses the shutter. So I'll get 60 frames from this whole movement when the woodpecker decided to launch. This is probably the 2nd or 3rd frame as it took off the branch, and then I find that I feel spoiled with that function. It's almost like I'm cheating. I can't, because there's no way I could capture that. Everything works so fast in nature just to have that option. So it had locked onto the bird, and then when the woodpecker decided to take flight for whatever reason, it just and I knew I'd got the images. So it was really cool. And also the woodlands it really tested the dynamic range as well. So you had lots of light, lots of dark. I'm having to change. I always shoot manual as well, so I'm adjusting ISO, adjusting the shutter speed to keep my histogram nice. And as we'll explain, we had to shoot in JPEG, which also meant I had to really get it right in the camera rather than hoping I could edit when I get home. And I just thought, there's nothing really done to this image. You can't edit much to a JPEG, and I didn't have to do a lot. I was just blown away by it, to be fair. And then I moved on to one of the hardest little birds to photograph, but a favourite. So the weather, the 2 weeks, we had 3-4 days of torrential rain and me getting very frustrated. I had 3 days down by the river and the canal looking for, I wanted some photos of this little guy. And then I had 1 day, beautiful sunshine in these autumn leaves with the berries. He did a couple of dives in front of me and he was gone. So from 4 days, I had 5-10 minutes of him, but I had a beautiful set of photos. And again, on the video on the Alpha Universe, you'll see some different frames of him diving into the river. But again, you can just see this is very dark conditions because we're under a canopy almost. They like to stay under a canopy at the river. So I think it doesn't show my settings, but I think I'm up at ISO 3000 there. And obviously with a Kingfisher, I'm having to use shutter speeds of 3200, very fast shutter speeds to capture him. Again, it locked on, it stayed on him as he went through the bushes down, and even when he came back out of the water, which was amazing. Usually when he makes a splash, you can lose the focus because the camera doesn't know where to go, but it stayed on him as he came back out, and there he is with his dinner for the evening, which was awesome.
And how long were you having to wait around? Like I say, for us, this looks great that you've got these amazing images so far.
3 days of nothing, and then 1 day with 5 minutes, maybe he was there, dived twice. So I have to go find where they are. So you see the perch he's on there. They like perches where they can slap the fish. So once they catch a fish, they give it a slap and then they swallow it. So they're not swallowing a live fish. So you can look on the branches for fish scales, and then a kingfisher will stay within a kilometre range of a river until it's mating time. So you'll hear, and they announce their arrival as well, which is quite funny. So you'll hear a chirp, and then they'll come to a perch. They like shallow, fast-moving river.
Yeah.
So you can kind of work it out, but it's a gamble. It's 3 days of nothing. It's quite annoying.
So you had 3
1
days
day
of
in the rain.
And then how long waiting in this spot, would you say?
How long to what, sir?
How long were you waiting in this spot? You had 3 days of waiting, and then how long were you waiting in this spot on this particular day when you kind of thought?
I just stuck for that. It's not worth moving around. You can.
So it's 3 days on that one spot?
Yeah, I just decided it was active. So you just have to wait till he's hungry. It's early morning, and I'm half in the river in waders. I've got, polyester camo on. I'm boiling hot. And then I'll just have the tripod on the side of the river, and I'll just wait on 2 perches I can see he's using. But you imagine 8-10 hours, nothing, and he'll know I'm there. But any sharp movements, you can scare him off, or you might get someone walk a dog along the canal and just ruin everything. It's so they really are special moments, and the fact that when he did come, I don't think I had any misses, to be fair. It came, I got him flying across. I've got quite a few frames of him, which I'll share. Yeah, I didn't, and this is a JPEG, straight out the camera, and it's just beautiful. The colors, the detail.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose you didn't have, at least you didn't have to think too much in terms of focus-wise, because the camera can recognize birds and so on. So, like you say, and I think, like as you mentioned, you've got a video and some other images which people will be able to find on Alpha Universe as well, where if they want to see some more of this kind of stuff, as well as on your socials as well. But I guess when you're there, you need the camera to perform as you expect it to as well, because if you're waiting for 3 days in the same spot, like I say, it's pretty crucial. Yeah.
If someone asks me a typical day, it's no, it can be nothing. So it's like, but that's how rewarding wildlife photography is. Like going back to what I was saying about sports, I'm sitting next to a bike trail, just waiting for a mountain biker. It's pretty constant, predictable. But I tend to go out and pick a subject, so I don't get distracted. I don't wander around the woods looking for anything. I'll go, right, let's go to where I know there's kingfishers, or I know where kestrels are hunting, and I'll just concentrate on that till I have a set of images and then I have an experience and I have a story. Every like trip or set of photos is a story to me. It's not, I don't just wander around the park, and I don't think that works. You just scare things away, and I like that whole working towards and learning their behavior, learning the landscape, and then sometimes they're very accepting of you as well. Like I think owls prefer to know you're there than you're completely hidden, and so they can almost keep an eye on you while they're watching you. Yeah, so that's where my love for wildlife comes from over sports. Sitting in the river, getting nothing.
Well,
but I just understand, you can have it on. Oh, sorry, you can have it on bird and animal. So I always have it this set to bird if I'm shooting a bird, or I'll go to animal if I'm sure it works perfect, but just to make sure.
No, it's a good point. So for anybody at home who hasn't used one of our cameras with our AI subject recognition, where you have the option between bird and animal and cars and insects and so on, there is a setting, as Paul mentioned, where you can have it set to bird, you can have it set to animal, or there's a dual mode and you can set a priority within there. There's also an auto mode as well on the cameras. But for those situations where, as Paul knows, he's going to go and shoot a bird, of course, the best thing to do is you put it on the dedicated mode, and there's no chance that it's going to be looking for something else within there, because it knows the exact kind of subject that you're going to want to be shooting. So if he did have a dog walker in the background approaching or anything like that, no chance of it jumping onto a human if you had it in auto or a dog. Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that 5 minutes could be wasted if it thought the leaf looked like a bear behind. I don't know. So I just, for peace of mind, I'll choose the actual subject. Yeah, and it never failed. In fact, on that video, I included a bit of a EVF screen recording. You can see the box just holding on to the eye of a very tiny woodland bird. So I included that in the video, and it didn't let go as it went behind branches, jumped about. Really cool. So that photo there is the focus is locked onto its eye, and then obviously locked onto the bird as well. Yeah. I really love the colours of that photo.
And well, I really like kind of the background there because it's quite a nice kind of melange, isn't it? You've got that really, like I say, kind of saturated green further back, and then like I say, the leaves are looking beautiful just with that slight defocus there and offering some different colour as well.
Because I mean, I was panicking. Autumn in England, wildlife. I was like, ugh, in 2 weeks. Oh my God. There's lots of birds have migrated, and it's not like the spring where you've got birds feeding everywhere. But there is specific subjects, like a kingfisher, who get very busy at this time of year. So, yeah, then after the kingfisher, I went off to where I know these kestrels live. So this is a perch photo, but again, on the video, you'll see some in-flight shots of how well it tracked her landing on the top of a tree and flying past me to check me out. And this was just a moment she perched quite close, probably 10, 15 meters from me. And again, just the drop off behind is gorgeous. There's a I'm thinking you can see my cursor, but there is a kind of bush behind, and there's a tree on the left side, but it just grabbed onto her perfectly. Yeah. So that was a successful day. And I was lying in cow pats all day on a field. So you have basically with the kestrel, as long as I found if I go into where they hunt, which is called a range, so each bird of prey has a range which they'll protect against other birds. So this kestrel and her partner have been on that range for about 7 years. So I think she's about 8 years old now, and she will protect that range against any other birds, whether it's a crow or a sparrowhawk or. So I knew that was their range. So you go in before daylight and just set yourself up on the floor. She'll know where I am, but I haven't moved all day and bothered her. And I just wanted to finish on, while I was lying in that field, I managed to get this photo. Well, I got a few. There's a set of them, and this is a green woodpecker, and they only eat ants. So he's hunting around the ground for ants, and then he bounced up onto the tree in front of me. And people who follow me on Instagram will know of all my stories and just frustration kind of videos of me not getting a good photo of the green woodpecker yet. And it was like the icing on the cake of this whole 2 weeks project. So he just dropped down in front of me. So the kestrel would be about 5 meters past him and up on a fence. So he's really close to me. Didn't see me. And eventually the kestrel come in and chased him away. But yeah, you can just see there the sunlight coming in from the right and the beautiful contrast. Again, remember this is a JPEG, very low light, probably 7 in the morning, winter time, so low sunlight. Just gorgeous. It seemed to kind of denoise it from the camera. I don't know. I would have, when I got home with that as a RAW file, I'd be expecting to be denoising for a while and getting that looking right before I started editing, but I didn't do anything to it. I think I might have pushed the exposure a little bit in Lightroom, or just gorgeous. The eye on it. You could crop in on that beautifully as well. I haven't cropped much. That was the other thing was good because you guys wanted 16:9, and I'm a sucker for doing portrait 4:5s on Instagram because it gets more attention as people are scrolling, and then I create a carousel of photos. So I rarely get the chance to work on a proper composition of a 16:9. So that was a really the cameras almost helped me with my photography, and just doing a proper composition, and compounding all that information of laying a camera in 2 weeks, as well as trying to find wildlife. It's been intense, but like really good for me. Like really lit a fire in something. I've had the best 2 weeks ever.
I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it's great that you kind of say that the images straight out of camera, even just from the JPEGs, were kind of doing the job for you immediately. I mean, this picture I think is stunning. Don't take offense when I say it looks like you've got a stuffed bird that you've placed a light. It looks so amazing. It just looks perfect that you've got a bird.
Well, I think that looks like something you'd buy on eBay, it's like a model or something. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But
It's too good, isn't it?
It's
The
too
water
good.
droplets on the grass and everything.
I do love that, and I guess from what you've been saying, I mean, you've told me you spent 3 days in the same spot looking at the same ranch for kingfishers with your waders on. Yeah. You've been getting down in the cowpats. One question: how did the handling affect? Did you find the handling all okay? The camera kind of withstood everything you kind of threw at it, and so on. So
I love the screen. The screen's perfect, so I could have it low on the rev. So with kingfishers, I want to get as low to the water. So the camera's almost at water level. My tripod's like in the water. And then, but with the screen, I can kind of angle it up, and then I'm just sitting staring down at it, which I found brilliant. But then I could also have the camera above a tree trunk, and I could sit out of sight and then bend the screen down to me. So yeah, that's really cool the way that flexes around. Feels like one of those Rubik's magic puzzles I used to have as a kid. It's kind of goes everywhere. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't really know what to say, but as a wildlife photographer, it gave me everything I needed. There wasn't a point where I was like, oh God, I'm not, these aren't as good as normal, or it was just, everything was a good surprise. Yeah, I thought it ticked all the boxes for me. I think it's superb, really good.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for your glowing endorsement, and thank you so much for your images. Like I say, they're absolutely fantastic. As we mentioned, you can also find some more of those images, some more of your images on our Alpha Universe website, of course, as well as your socials, which we'll direct people towards later. Let's now have a look at some different types of images from Mihaela. So, Mihaela, can you tell me first of all, kind of your impressions of the camera in terms of when you got it and when you used it? Did it do what you needed it to do? I mean, I'm guessing from the stuff you said you do with your project, I guess almost the camera, you need it not to be noticed, that it's kind of not intimidating people, or how did you find it to use, or what were your first impressions of the camera?
Right. I think one of my dreams would be not to have any distractions when I communicate with the people that I'm meeting, and sometimes cameras can be frightening and scary for people, they see you for the first time and you put out this camera and they're like, oh, it's maybe sometimes a bit frightening, and it will make your connection with the person that you're photographing a bit awkward. So my dream would be that in the future I will be able to take pictures just with my eyes. So whenever when I'm shooting and when I'm photographing people, I want to have the least concern on the technical aspects as possible. So the camera should do their job in order for me to do my job, so I don't want to think about anything. That's why I usually shoot on aperture priority, rarely use manual, although I have a great surprise when I'm shooting with Sony. I can see when you are doing, maybe some people are not like me, I'm not very technical, so this was something new for me, but that when I was changing on manual mode the aperture, and I was doing the adjustments, I could see also the changes on my screen, which was very interesting for me. But usually I use just aperture priority, just to be very flexible and very easy to just put out the camera and start photographing straight from the start and not noticing any changes. So with the camera was delivering. That's the main thing. That it was doing what it was supposed to do. I didn't have issues in my process, in my workflow. It was the same as usual. What I liked about it was that sometimes for me it's difficult to see if I'm focusing right. So with the picking mode, I see the square is moving, so I'm like, okay, so it's helping me in my process, and that was also a very good thing. I had the chance, Sony sent me a great lens the 50 millimeters with 1.2, and it was the first time I used it, and I just fell in love with it, and I will need it for sure. It's a great lens, and the previous photographer mentioned, these pictures are also not edited, so completely straight out of the camera. It's the JPEG, and I think they look great in terms of color contrast, in terms of how you see the differences, the light with the dark behind. It's very picturesque atmosphere. So this is something that I'm looking for in my imagery, to develop a story straight from the start. I don't believe so much in post-production. If you really have to hide something, that means you didn't do it properly on on the spot. And also, it's a bit because I'm photographing women, and women are very self-aware about how they look. If I'm going to start editing their skin and stuff like that, I think it's very, very strange. So I don't do that usually in any of my work. So I'm really happy with how these images look without any edits. Oh yes, let's change some, right?
Yeah, we can have a look.
Also, forgot about that. Sorry, guys. So what I also like about this picture is the fields. You have these two worlds that come together, and it tells a story. Also, because I'm mentioning that I'm working on this project since a long time, I always try to speak with the women that I'm photographing, and I try to learn about their life. So sometimes when I'm photographing, I like to photograph them in their own environment. So this is their city, on their streets, and I'm trying to capture a glimpse of their lives. Also, pretty nice the effect on the hair, right? So I think it's good to have the possibility to capture more frames per second, right?
Yeah.
It will add a little bit of a dynamic to the moment if you have a camera that will capture that. But mostly for me, it's very simple and straightforward. I need the camera that will not make me concerned about the technical issues. If it's possible for it just for me to use just one button on, and that's it. Just one button on, off. That's it. That would be the perfect camera. And my experience with this Sony, it was really good, and I didn't have any issues. So yes, great job.
Well, thank you very much. And it gives us, like I say, a great insight, because very different from what Paul was saying before. I mean, I think both of you probably have that in common, that you need the camera to work. He's waiting maybe 3 days in a river and waiting for that moment there. But you've got a very different situation where you have people on the street who, like I say, have you told us you're introducing yourselves to these different women, and the last thing you want is to maybe keep them waiting. So the fact that it's kind of, like I say, you turn it on and it works, I think it sounds like it kind of suits your photography kind of perfectly, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm so glad to hear that it's, like I say, is really fitting well for you there. And of course, from our side, we try and throw lots of technology into the likes of the focus and the speed of the camera. But at the end of the day, we find that a lot of photographers, they only change the functions that they need. And that means that everybody who, like I say, is out there can either customize things as much as they want, or simply go out, have a reliable camera that can get focus, can get the shot, and get exactly what you need. And I think that's exactly kind of the type of situation that you were talking about. So thank you very much, Mihaela. Thank you so much for showing us your images as well. Like I say, beautiful images, and something that's really different from what we saw from Paul there as well. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at some different content. So Stijn, as he introduced himself to us at the start, is a hybrid shooter. So he's shooting professionally, both photo and video. And as such, there's a short film which he's produced with the Alpha 7 Mark V. We're going to talk to him about it and his project. But what we're going to do first is we're going to show you that video. So let's play that now.
The world moves in quiet rhythms, subtle shifts, small changes, moments that drift past before we even notice. But when you slow down, When you let yourself fall into the pace of things, you start to feel it. The soft movement of plants brushing against the wind. The motion of the dunes, alive with the wind and light. The anticipation of stepping into the scene that's waiting for you. That's why I'm here. To follow the light as it changes. To chase the rhythm of the world as it unfolds. To capture the moments where emotion meets stillness. To read the stories written in shadows and light. To freeze the feelings that would otherwise disappear unnoticed. And to remind myself that life is always happening, right now, in every quiet movement, in every passing second, if you're willing to be part of it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Stijn. I was just saying before when we were speaking that everyone at home will think your life is glamorous when it's not, but you've just made a nice little short film there which makes your life look glamorous. But I'm sure it's a lot more difficult than what it looks, and probably a lot of hard work. So tell us a little bit about the project that you did, and tell us a little about your experience shooting with the Alpha 7 Mark V.
Funny, because when looking back at this video, like you mentioned, it looks like it's easy and it's not a lot of work, but it's only been like 3 sunrises and 3 sunsets capturing the beauty of Fuerteventura. It's the island I went to. And somehow the camera just delivered. Like, there's a lot of sequences that also in the video I captured on photo, which means that like when I capture a bird flying by, 2 seconds later I'm shooting it in pictures. And I delivered, like, I think I shot like 800 good images on top of the video you can see, which to me is like a game changer, because now like I'm able to capture everything I do in video and just like within seconds change to photo. I mean, it sounds cliche, but for years I've been shooting on the Sony Alpha 7 IV. And you know that feeling when you have something for years and it feels just right. I mean, you think like, yeah, I'm happy with what I have. But once I started using that Sony Alpha 5, there were a few things, and it sounds cliche, but there were a few things that it just made a difference for me. And to start with, like, the dynamic range on that thing, we now have 16 stops. And for me in my work, there's a lot of moments where I'm shooting right into the light. So for instance, this image here, this is right out of the camera. So we saw it with Paul and Mihaela's work as well. It's just a JPEG, no pulling on shadows and highlights. This is what you get straight out of the camera. And for me, like, being able to shoot on my sunrises and sunsets, not needing to like pull up my shadows and destroying all the noise, like the noise that's there, and like being able to deliver such quality images, for me makes a huge difference. So that dynamic range for me was like highly needed, because of course, like shooting sunrises, it's very dark, and then you have like the sun coming up, which exposes the sky. And then I'm not sure what you guys did, but the new auto white balance accuracy feels very well done. So it feels like somehow, because also like I'm doing a lot of run and gun. So first moment I'm shooting on the left side, and then there's a bird, so I'm shooting to the right, but then there's a lot of blues there and a lot of oranges there. And it feels like you guys did a very good job on the new accuracy on that, because also here you can see the white balance just works. And I'm shooting on auto white balance quite often because, like I said, it's a lot of run and gun. So hats off for that. And I can't really... Oh, sorry, yeah?
Sorry, I was just going to ask you on that. So then was your film there a mixture of tripod and handheld, or predominantly handheld? Did you have the stabilization turned on, or talk us a bit through that side of it in terms of the setup as well?
So let me just take you through one of the examples. So in the beginning of the film, you can see me doing a little hike. So first what I do is like an estimating shot of me coming up, which is a handheld shot. Then I place the camera on a tripod, and then I just walk past the camera like a few times. Sometimes when I'm on beaches, I'm like running around. So I tried the new built-in stabilization, which worked pretty well as well. Because most often when I'm shooting, you only have 30 minutes before the light gets just like too bright. So it's a lot of times like putting on a tripod, putting off the tripod. Then you need to put it on a stabilizer, but being able to like not needing a stabilizer that much because the new stabilization in body is pretty good. It's super neat for me. So yeah, it's just a lot of like changing in one place. So running around, putting on a tripod, steady shots, doing a time lapse as well. So you can easily put it like on a time lapse, so it runs a time lapse. So that to me worked pretty well. And also in this sequence, you can see the slow motion shots I did on the beach. And it was super fun to play with the 120p there.
Yeah.
It was so cool to see like in post how the 120p turned out. And still that's on Super 35. So that's very cool. And I love like how you can play with the emotion of something that goes by so quickly.
Everything looks good in slow motion, they say, don't they?
I mean, before I didn't use that often, like the slow motion function, but I think I'm starting to use that more often because it looks freaking cool.
But yeah, compared to your Alpha 7 IV, where obviously you had 4K 60p in the Super 35, and you could do up to 4K 30 in the full frame. As you mentioned, now you've got 4K 60 on the full frame, or that 4K 120 in a Super 35 crop. For anybody who also likes to have a bit of fun in full HD, the S&Q mode can even do HD 240 as well. So you've got a lot of flexibility kind of on that kind of front, which is hopefully like a nice new tool to be able to use.
Definitely. Yeah, and then one thing for me makes a difference as well, because the Sony a7 IV didn't have that. I'm shooting everything in S-Log, and being able to now finally load in LUTs into the body, just like the FX series and everything, is a huge difference, because now on set, like you can see what the image is gonna look like, so you can put your own LUTs, put it on the body, and just like your images look on Rec 709, like it looks normal, you have the same on your video now as well. So that to me was also very nice to finally see on the Sony a7 IV. That was amazing, yeah.
So yeah, just to explain for anybody at home, I think a lot of people will be aware, but in case anybody's not, LUTs are lookup tables which can be loaded into your camera here, as Stijn was saying. So he was recording in S-Log, which is our flat profile, which then he can go and edit afterwards in color grade in post-processing. But the LUTs that you can now install onto the Alpha 7 Mark V means that you could have a kind of preview of what his color grading might look like, give him a more realistic image. It also makes things like focus and so on, maybe manual focus, a little bit easier to see exactly with more contrast within there. For people who are also doing event things, it means you can even bake in a LUT if you want, so you can have an instant result. But for a lot of people, being able to get an idea of what they are going to get as an end result when they're editing gives them a great guidance when they're shooting within there. And another point just to mention, of course, on our Alpha Universe website, we also do have free downloads of LUTs that a lot of our creators have made that you can download completely for free off there as well to give you some really creative looks in there. But for anybody who's less familiar with that, like I say, of course, that's a feature that's come off some of our higher models, and now you can also see it here in this Alpha 7 Mark V. Sorry, Stijn, to interrupt.
All good. It's good to have some information because it can get technical, so people could be like, what is he talking about? And just to finish it off, like you can see here, it's also a JPEG, and still you can see how amazing the camera handles. Like it's shot directly into the light. Like behind the bird, there is like the sun going up. And then to know like 1 second before this, like the bird landed, I was taking a video clip. And then I switched to photo. I took a few photos, and then it just flew away. Like being able to like shoot within 6-7 seconds to shoot a great photo and like a video. Yeah, no words.
And that's also really interesting in terms of from a usage point of view. Again, a lot of people know at home, but we have a little switch beneath the main mode dial on here to change between stills and movie and slow and quick mode. And then I'm guessing you do have, but please let me know your setup. We can have in the menu different settings for stills and video. So that when you're switching between them, if you're shooting a 50th of a second or whatever it might be, shutter speed for video, but you want something quicker for stills, you can kind of have that customized different between them on there. You can even set different custom buttons on the camera for when you're in stills and video mode. But is that the kind of setup you have, where you have different settings for stills and video, Stijn, set in the camera?
So I've been trying different settings out, and for me, what worked very well is having everything, of course, in manual mode, and then everything the same. So when I switch to my photo, then the settings are the same. So I know like I have the same mode. So I'm shooting 100 of a second because I'm shooting 50p. Then I leave everything on an ISO of 100, and then the aperture changes often. But having the same settings means I can really fastly change between those two functions of photo and video. Because if I leave my photo on a different setting, then it leaves me like, damn, I need to switch it really fast. And now, like being able to switch it very fast, and the camera handles it fast as well, had me shooting pictures of the bird while shooting video as well. So that would be my go-to on both different settings.
Very nice, very nice. And then I saw on the previous image, on this image, like you say, you're using 100th of a second, and you mentioned before, and I failed to mention in all my kind of talking before, we do have, of course, in-body stabilization on here, up to 7.5 stops central and 6.5 stops at the periphery. But I also briefly mentioned that we do have the active mode image stabilization for mover recording. So there's a slight crop on the image, but it gives you a stabler view as you're going on long handheld. And then another feature which has come from our higher end models, the dynamic active mode has even more of a crop on there, but is really super smooth in terms of the stabilization on there for those scenes where you are going fully handheld as well on there. But basically, like I say, it sounds like as an Alpha 7 user, Alpha 7 Mark IV user, you're very happy with that camera, but this camera kind of has elevated things a little bit. Would it be fair to say?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I have no bad words about the new camera. It's just delivering. As I said, I was already happy with the Alpha 7 IV. But like when you use something, you don't know what you're missing. And then when this one came in, there's a few things, like I explained, that just changed my workflow like by a lot. Also, not to forget to mention that new 4-axis multi-monitor screen. I mean, like my workflow, I go from laying on the ground to like capturing something there to this to there, and it's a fun thing. Paul said it felt like a Rubik's Cube because like you're turning it and then you're turning it like that, and then it flips to vertical as well, which is cool because now if you hold your camera vertically, the screen also like flips, which is great. So yeah, I mean, you can hear about anything I say. I'm very hyped about the camera because it just worked, and I only had 3 days to test it out, so it was amazing, and I can't wait to see what it has to deliver when I test it out full time.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for endorsement, Stijn. Like I said, I think looking at all you guys there, I'm glad that it fits in your hands, as we say, kind of like so well that you were able to go out, and all of you in such a relatively small time, be able to get some amazing footage and giving us a bit of an insight into your experiences and usage of the camera. So we really appreciate that. Let's bring everybody back in together. And I'm personally very encouraged because I've kind of heard about your experiences in completely different fields and areas. And it sounds to me as though the Alpha 7 Mark V has done a decent job in looking after you and hopefully being able to capture something, because it seems like in such a short time frame with very different types of subjects and different usages of the features, you were all able to capture some pretty amazing stuff within there. So thank you so much for sharing all that with us. As we move on now, what I'd like for you guys to do is maybe impart some of your wisdom on our audience at home. So what I'd like you to do is think of one piece of advice or a tip that you think might be helpful to some of our audience, which, like I say, can be related to anything you want, whether that's to do with photography, filmmaking, whether it's to do with career preparation of cameras, whether it's to do with attitudes or inspirations or anything. So we'll start off with Paul. Have you got any tips or piece of advice for our viewers at home?
Yeah, I just want to say I love both your images and your video. That was really cool listening to you both from that whole new perspective of I don't really meet other people who do it full time and for a whole other reason. So that was really cool hearing that. So that was really enjoyable. I'll just underline what I said before. If you want to get into wildlife photography, kind of make it a story, make it an experience. It's about being outside. those days I can come home with empty cards and nothing. You shouldn't get down about that. As long as you've enjoyed being there, you've learn about your subjects as well, learn their behaviour, but also respect their areas, respect the wildlife, respect where they live. Don't impose on them too much, and just have fun with wildlife. Don't get down by the bad moments, because when you do get that shot, like I said earlier, it's like icing on the cake. So just be prepared for down days, but learn from it and just enjoy being outside in nature, which is what I love. So it's not about just getting the image; it's about the experience. So that would be my tip.
Thank you very much, Paul. Mihaela, have you got any advice or wisdom for our viewers at home?
Well, I think I come from a little bit, although I'm from Europe, but I come from East Europe. For us in East Europe, it was a little bit more complicated in terms of pursuing your pursuing photography and pursuing an artistic field and thinking about an artistic field, because it was such a difficult economical situation in Romania for so many years. So whenever I have to give an advice to people that want to go in this field, is like just prepare not to have success, and prepare to be very difficult road, and prepare to have very tough moments when you want to give up. And if you have it inside of you to be a fighter, because for me as a photographer in Romania, I felt it was like a fighting road, not necessarily an easy road. And if you have it inside of you, of course, pursue it. And it's great to when you look at the final results and then the final images, you have the impression that, oh, it was so easy. Look, this image looks very nice. It must have been easy. But actually, it's like a mosaic, and everything has to come together. You need to find the money to travel. You need to find the people to accept you. You need to find the birds to listen to you. So it's a very long and tedious process. And you have to think that if I'm going to be a photographer, I need to know that it's not an easy road.
Very, very wise and good advice. Thank you very much. What about you, Stijn? Have you got some advice or tips for our viewers at home?
Definitely. I think these days, like, it's very easy to get lost in social media, like, pressure. So for me, like, I do a lot of the things I do and I post it on Instagram. And years back, I got lost in doing things for follows and likes. I mean, I got a burnout from it. And people always ask me, oh, I want to do what you do. I want to travel the world because it looks so cool. But then I tell people, and we just heard the stories from Mihaela and Paul, there is so much that goes behind the camera. And people forget that. So I think my advice would be stay true to yourself. And if you're passionate about capturing something, about like doing photography in general, stay true to that and don't do things for following or for likes. Just shoot whatever you do. If you want to shoot birds, and don't shoot it because people want to see you shooting birds or whatever. Do it because you do it. And I think that you will do it for years. I mean, for me, going out for sunrises and sunsets, it doesn't cost me any energy because I love doing it. I mean, I don't need sleep because I love doing it. But when I'm pushing myself doing it for like social media presence, it costs a lot of energy. And then that way, like, you'll get burnout. And then after a few years, you stop doing it. So yeah, stay true to you.
Damn, that's perfect. I wish I'd said that. Mate.
You can go again if you want,
I
Paul.
totally agree. I totally agree. Don't do what you think's popular for, notoriety or whatever. Just do what your heart follows, and that's what I was saying. Where I started at sports and ended up at wildlife. That's where my heart took me, and that's where I'm most happy and passionate. So that was awesome. Yeah.
All excellent pieces of advice. So thank you so much for that. And if you've been impressed today by the images and footage you've seen from our guests, you might be interested to know where you can find more. And of course, we were just mentioning the likes of Instagram. And of course, you can find them there. So you can see their Instagram handles there at paulbrowning.photography, at the Atlas of Beauty with the dots in between, and at First as well. So please, please, please do go along. And if you don't already, do give them a follow. and alike, and you can find lots more of their content there, not just, like I say, with the Alpha 7 Mark V, but also other great content that they've been producing and the projects they've been working on. So you can find lots more from our lovely guests, of course, there. So please do go along, give them a follow. But furthermore, you can also, of course, find more about their experiences on our Alpha Universe website. So they have been working with the camera, the Alpha 7 Mark V, and we have articles on our Alpha Universe, which again will give you even greater insight into their shooting experiences, as well as some of the videos and other stills footage we were talking about as well, which you can find there. Of course, our Alpha Universe website has a plethora of articles across different genres, and on it you can search by genre, or you can search by product even, so whether it's a lens or a camera body which you're interested in, and find great articles from people such as our guests today and their experiences with those products in shooting whatever genre they've done. So please do go along and check out some of the different content there. But in addition to that, on our Alpha Universe website, we also have our Alpha Academy, where we have free tutorials where you can learn how to use your Sony camera or lens better. And it's a completely free resource which has different levels of complexity in terms of tutorials on there, and is a great source. Some of the things led by Sony representatives, and some of them also done by ambassadors, photographers, and other people on there. So do please go and check that out. But without further ado, I think that's brought us pretty much to the end of our webinar today. So first of all, I would just like to say a massive thank you to our guests. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
And thank you so much, Mihaela, as well.
Thank you.
And thank you, Stijn.
Thank you for having me, and yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you.
We really appreciated seeing the things that you guys were able to produce with the camera under extreme kind of pressure and short time frames. And although they're very different, like I say, they show off the beauty of your work, and I think also the beauty of the camera as well at the same time. So we really appreciate your time and effort. And we hope that everybody at home has enjoyed this webinar. And all it leaves me to say is that we really, like I say, look forward to hopefully seeing you next time on our next Sony Alpha webinar. Goodbye.